Make a motion to return from executive session at 6 o'clock.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to ask that everybody stand as we open our regular meeting of the Plain Township Board of Trustees.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before us, we've got our agenda as presented. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections by fellow board members or department heads at this time?
Yes, Mr. President, I need to add a communication on this evening.
Okay.
It'll be number 4.
Anything else? I think concerns of trustees, I'll put Stark County Township Association and Route 62 project. Any other changes? Okay, the agenda will stand as amended. First item, we have unfinished business. I'm going to turn it over to our administrator, Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. I think it was a couple meetings ago, a resident requested that the board bring to the zoning commission the issue of chickens. It's on unfinished business because the board has previously brought that to the zoning commission and they made no changes to anything in the zoning plan. It's the same board of commission. It's almost a moot point at this time, so I just wanted to bring it forward to the board for some discussion and then some closure.
No, we did receive that one. I think there was one additional resident email we've got this week. I mean, there's been no new facts, figures, detailed information that substantiates or justifies the board incurring the expense, in my opinion, putting it back before the same exact board that rendered, I believe, a unanimous decision, not even a split contentious decision, but a unanimous decision. I can't see expending township resources to do it. Is my take at this time. Do either of you have any?
I would agree. The smallest lot size right now is what, acre?
1 acre.
1 acre.
So we could literally have a tiny, if we...
More, I'm sorry, more than an acre.
Okay, more than an acre, okay. So if we would just open this up, we could have lots that were really small, and those people would have chickens that could easily be offensive to their neighbors, either side or behind them.
Absolutely.
I'm okay with where we are.
Okay. So there's no further action we need to take?
No, just clarification, and I think, Tom, do you have that gentleman's phone number?
I do.
If you will just call him on behalf of the board.
Absolutely.
And that's the end of unfinished business. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that a long-term code?
Yeah.
So that's where that would be.
And it's a fun word to say.
Yeah. I think our residency, it comes before us.
New business, we'll keep that with Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. I'll start and I'm going to turn it over to Eric Haynes and Mr. Hawes. But I know the whole board and department heads have talked collaboratively about the website. And at first we talked about just updating it. But there's so much work that needs to be done. We need to just have a whole redesign of the website. We've grown a lot. We've added a park. We do reservations differently now. Joe's got new information, I've got new information, and if we keep adding to the current website, information isn't going to be found. It's time for an overhaul. So Trustee Hawes and Eric Haynes met with Sue Grabowski, who has some information about, and they have information about the Squawker website design, which I've researched myself and is a very good website design. What I like is that we can have a point person actually making those changes on the website instead of always having to make a request and then pay additionally for those changes. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Hawes and Eric Haynes.
Well, I guess I'll start. What was it? It's probably about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. We did meet. I've investigated some different website design companies based upon my full-time role. And obviously the biggest thing is with website design, it needs to be mobile friendly. As of, I think, last month, official traffic numbers are there's more traffic going to mobile devices there than there are stationary. And if you take a look at our current website, try pulling it up on your smartphone. It's horrific. I mean, you're trying to blow it up and trying to find stuff to, as well, we really need, if we look at doing this, we have to give, we want to be everything to everybody, but at a certain point, there's some non-value add information probably out there that we need to really see what needs leaned out and what new information, may need to be plugged in. Eric asked quite a few technical questions, at least on the back-end integration and so forth. I guess, Eric, if you don't mind, chime in on your thoughts and take.
The thing that I like probably the most about the format that they have is we have a significant footprint with our webpage. Obviously, we have a footprint with the Facebook, we have Twitter, but we also don't necessarily have all of our community having Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts and having to go to one application or the other. The way that they format theirs is it's very mobile friendly and it's very simple point to click, so you can basically get to what it is that you're looking for very rapidly without a lot of interference on your way to that end result. I think what Scott mentioned was that we would want to keep it content value, but not all content that current content, but more likely to be presented. Archive content, you would look somewhere else for that type of thing. Well, and you can also embed those Facebook users, the Twitter users, even the YouTube viewers that look at our meetings and our outside community events, and that can all be actually viewed from right inside of that application. And it is, like Scott mentioned, extremely mobile friendly. So it really just extends our forward-facing footprint that we currently have and expanding it to more users, and we have a lot of ideas on how we can promote that via our current newsletter, allowing them, they can simply have a URL barcode that they can simply scan any smart device, and they'll be able to have access to that current content in that user-friendly mobile environment.
And it doesn't take additional space like most apps do.
Right, it's all a URL web-based type application.
So you
It's
got
like your Google
32
search.
gigabyte and you've used up, say, 29.5 of it. You're like, oh my gosh, do I really want to download this thing? And that was something Eric was trying to talk through on the technical end with Sue, which was over my head, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, all the content would be available for the user, but not necessarily stored locally it would be similar to an interface where you would go out to a local, like for instance, the Canton Repository has a lot of content that's readily available to you, but it's dynamic. It's constantly changing, and giving our department heads, their liaisons, whoever they may feel most appropriate to add to that content, would be able to individually push the content up through this office and out to the community very rapidly. All of our park type events that we're doing constant communications. These guys are, continually communicating with the community on what events are upcoming, what the schedules are, if there's any schedule changes and that type of thing, making it very easy for them to be able to not necessarily have to ask for those changes to be made, just be able to push simple content and have it dynamic.
And not just ask, but ask and then have to pay for it every time.
Sure.
So.
Which, I mean, Because that was one of the things we talked through, was even what we budget on a yearly basis. I mean, what was it, about $2,500 a year we budget?
But the
and we
other
were already-
departments pay also, so that's just general fund.
Okay.
So every department pays for their own changes,
So
so.
let's even say it's $2,500 out of the general fund, and then this mobile site has an upfront investment of $5,000. It has an annual power fee, is what they label $500. However, what we do gain is we gain the control of immediate, we find out, like Chief was dealing with today, the the hazmat incident. If we want to be able to update our website and have that feed in social media, we can do that instantaneously. We're not counting on somebody else. Literally, they go into the sheet, they update it, they refresh, boom, it's there. There were a number of businesses that were given as examples, but of course we asked, what do you have from a governmental entity? And they had done something for Berlin Township in Franklin County. So they are getting more involved on the governmental front. They said the ramp-up time from the time we would approve this and get this specific information, we're looking at about a 4-week turnaround.
4 to 6 week turnaround.
Oh, wow.
In order to help justify what content, what the most popular or most frequently visited content is, they look into some of the Google Analytics information to determine, really what we should be putting out there, even though we may go, man, I really want to see this out here. But analytics says nobody ever hardly visits that.
Well, not to mention too, when we talked briefly during that conversation about the interactions, the more interaction that we have with the school system and all of the people and obviously in the township that have kids in the school system interacting in those activities. The sheriff's office has things that are routinely going on. The road department, the parks department, there's constant information exchange really that needs to be very, very easy to ascertain. Quick.
And I know, I think, definitely want to speak to as well, because this isn't 100% of it, but the investment we've made in parks with the active software and so forth, there's going to have to be some vetting on if and how exactly it could potentially tie in, but she said there's so many systems and programs that on the back end they can tie, because obviously we don't want to lose ability to do, online registration and payments and all of that stuff. So that was definitely brought up as part of this discussion. It was left off at the point that they'd have to see that back end and figure out how they would write the code to connect it.
And some of that may be a redirect. I mean, still, even over the next, say, 12 months or so, that may be hey, this is exactly what you need to do. It's very simple, push this button. The dynamics that the parks registration system has already in place, I'm assuming I have yet to see that system. Is probably relatively user-friendly and intuitive.
So,
And $5,000 is a lot less than it would have taken for us to do an overhaul that we're currently at.
and regain control. But now there is future, one of the things that Eric and I talked through with Sue is this gives us what they label as one channel, which means essentially there's going to be an individual that administers and oversees it, which, at the end of the day, that's Elisa and or Eric combination. Whereas if we went and added, say, an additional channel for each department, from fire, and road, and parks and so forth, it essentially represents an additional $3,750, and each one of those channels has a $500 annual power fee. And really what that would give each of them is, hey, they can go out and do their own thing. But as we know, amongst, for control and visibility and, just checking, if we keep with one channel, you still, whether it's one channel or multi-channel, it would still be coming to them at the end to make sure it's updated. So whether it's approved for, revision.
And obviously, then it can always be upscaled if you see the need in the future. It can be bolted on and continue to expand. if we see the need for the road.
And the one point that Sue as well brought up was, you know, we get certain information out there based upon the Google Analytics, but on this front end, also doing, you know, a feedback tab. So we may
Right.
find out from residents that, hey, here's something we really would like to see. You know, this, say collectively or individually, we've never thought of, but now we're getting the feedback. So we're responding to our constituents' needs and request when it's that.
Yeah, you could get a feedback from them on wants and needs of the community in general, and also wants and needs on the application as it was presented to them. You know, they may find that they're most interested in the parks thing and want a little bit more robust functionality in the Parks Division, where other people may respond back that they're interested in the fire side. So you can get feedback from the users on both fronts, what they're looking for in the application as well as what they'd like to see, you know, us do collectively as a community. You can have Joe can present to the community where his trucks are at when he's plowing. In real time.
So, did you guys have questions? I'm trying to hit on the high points, but
Too much need, right?
I think we're forward-facing for certain, but potentially a little bit broken on the fact that we have multiple forward-facing fronts, where I think this really starts to bring it together and give you truly one place to go for what's going on in Plain Township, as opposed to going to the website or going to Facebook or going to Twitter. Not that we can't still continue with those applications being still populated with information, but this is kind of a one and done, what's happening right now with, you know, inside of Plain Township,
Yeah.
and very dynamic.
So then I have a resolution for the Board of Trustees to enter into the attached contract with Sue Grabowski, Chief Marketing Officer for Squawker, for website design and maintenance services, and the amount of $5,000 with an annual $500 power fee to and to authorize payment from the following funds, and it will be split $1,000 apiece.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes,
And that's the end of new business.
thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Yes, sir.
That'll take us to fiscal officer's report. Mr. Wolf?
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is a request for a resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in the amount of $561,120.25.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for a resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So move authority to pay.
Second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the investment report for October.
Same interest rate still. If anybody's got any questions, seats on his office afterward.
Fiscal Officer number 5 is the bank reconciliation for the month of October. Fiscal Officer number 6 is a request for resolution to authorize the following transfers.
I'll move on. Fiscal Officer 6.
Second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes the Fiscal Officer report.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. It's going to take us back to our administrator, Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. As you're all aware of, we have a permit from the Ohio EPA for clean water, the NPDES permit, essentially for stormwater. And this permit cycle, when we renewed, there were changes to the permit. At this point, with the changes and the new requirements, which are pretty intense, we would like to, and when I say we, Joe and I and Sean have discussed this, contract with CivPro, who does our yearly report to the EPA, to help make, first of all, to help make changes to our report. They need to review and amend our construction site runoff code, our local stormwater management code to make sure it's in compliance, our stormwater prevention plans. We need to add best management practices to our plan because we actually have to look at total maximum daily load for water quality issues, meaning is there too much nitrogen in the water? Is there, it's just really beyond Joe and I's scope at this point. So with that, I have a resolution for the board to approve the CivPro engineering contract for the stormwater management plan and provide the required updates for the Ohio EPA and to authorize payment not to exceed $5,000 from Fund 01M03B.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And that's the end of the administrator report.
Thank you. It's going to take us to the fire department. I will turn it over to Chief Schallenberger.
Item number 1 is resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to promote Ronald D. Francisco and Paul Wagon to the position of lieutenant effective 7 a.m. on January 1st of 2017.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is resolution by the Board of Trustees to hire Adam Hafer to the position of firefighter paramedic class 1 effective 7 a.m. on November 28th of 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 3, resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to promote Brandon Makel and Robert Morton Jr. to the position of captain effective 700 hours January 1st, 2017.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 4, promote, resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to promote Ben O. Hirschberger Jr., position of career captain, effective 7 a.m. on January 1st, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 5 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize purchase and payment for Genesis Rescue Systems accessories from Ohio Rescue Systems per attached quote, account number 28A05.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Is any of that battery operated stuff?
That is battery.
Yeah, that's nice stuff.
No further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 6 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize reimbursement to Ben Hirschberger for $249.24 for Provision 37 of the collective bargaining agreement for healthcare membership.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Item number 7 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize reimbursement to Ronald D. Francisco for $400 for his healthcare membership according to Provision 37 of the collective bargaining agreement.
I'll move on FD7.
Second. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 8 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to promote Eric Kane's position of 40-hour-a-week career captain, the Division of Communication and Safety, salary $66,500 plus or with benefits defined in employee handbook, effective 7 a.m. on January 1st, and funds to be split as read on the description here.
Also move.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Last item on our agenda is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to promote William Reed Jr. to the position of Deputy Chief, annual salary $73,140, with benefits defined in employee handbook, effective 7 a.m. on January 1st, 2017.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion just for anybody in the audience. The reason for all the promotions with our prior chief retiring and Chuck now being promoted chief, this is essentially the whole trickle-down effect. So we've got a lot of good quality guys here that have spent their due time and they're putting their efforts in here at the township. So no further discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Take us to the road department, Mr. Iacino.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item number 1 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of materials from various vendors for the Emerald Avenue Storm Sewer Project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by the Board of Trustees to authorize the purchase of a Jenny pressure washer from Northern Mobile Electric, not to exceed $3,440.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Discussion, Joe, just to clarify, this will essentially replace two piece part, or two that you may be able to, best be piece parted together to give one.
Yeah, they're about
And they're-
9 years old.
Yeah, so we've seen the life.
This one does steam, right?
This
Has the
is
ability to use steam also.
It's diesel and electric, so it'll be a lot better for what we need. Truck's a lot cleaner in the winter.
No further discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. It's going to take us to zoning department, Mr. Farrar.
Thank you, sir. Item number 1 is a resolution for reducing payments for items A and B.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And item number 2 is a resolution for nuisance abatements for items A through C.
And I will so move.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Concludes zoning, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Takes us to Parks Department, Mr. Steinberg.
Thanks. Excuse me, I just want to recap salute to veterans on 11/11. We had a great day. We dedicated 2 monuments. We had a wonderful ceremony inside, lots of partners. But most of all, I'd like to thank everybody around the bench and your departments for the teamwork and the effort. Nothing's ever done by one person, and all of us achieved it. It was a wonderful day, so thank you.
You won't believe the calls of people who said how spectacular that event was. And it was spectacular. And I gotta tell you, when I looked at all of our workers, and all of our staff, from department heads on, and watched everybody just working together as one, that was just overwhelming itself. So it was good, hard work. Everything was so organized, well put together. I'm not even sure words can express. That probably should have been on TV.
It was definitely more, it's always very humbling. I mean, from last year to see the second year how we've, made progress. The collective efforts are definitely,
I said it once, I said it a dozen times that day. If you don't come away from here feeling a lot better than when you came, shame on you.
well, again, thanks to everybody that's here along with the employees that.
When you look back, Trustee Hawes, you had us here at that PowerPoint, the start of it, and look what happened.
It's a team effort. we got it across the line. We've still got better things to come yet, still, so.
So, absolutely.
And I have to say, Rob had that timeline down.
Perfect.
He did. The flow of the day, I wouldn't have wanted to
He
handle
got
that for
upset because he
anything.
was like 3 minutes over or something like
Yeah.
that.
That's me.
Well, I think it was all the speakers because it was so emotional. Nobody planned for that part.
The fact that it was so cold, we may have been stuttering trying to get the words out, but.
Yeah. But that was really well run.
Yeah.
I just want to let you all know, the folks from High North called, and they'd like to come back to the Bothell Cup in 2017 again. We will not be bidding, and we'll just be returning on their current contract, and we look forward to having us.
Great, that's a great organization.
And finally, a resolution to authorize payment to Design Creations LLC, not to exceed 2121, from Fund 14A05 for T-shirts for our youth indoor rec soccer league.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And Rob, will you inform the board about the playground discussion today?
I
We
think we're
forgot to
allowed to
add
say it
that
now,
on.
right? We're-
Yeah. I spoke with Mary Fitch today at the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Office of Real Estate about our grant. Al and I met with Jonathan Wright from Play World yesterday, and we looked at options given that we were the only ones in Stark County awarded. We were awarded the entire amount allotted to Stark County, but there was still a gap to fill with the overall design that we had come up with originally. And sitting with Mr. Wright, we looked at the possibility of removing the matting and replacing it with fibrous mulch, which is already in all of our other playgrounds in the area, and it's also very safe and still ADA compliant. So I called Mary Fitch to make sure that we would still be in compliance with what we submitted for the grant proposal. And she said, yes, she said, it might knock you down 2 to 4 points, but you are so far ahead of second place's application that it wouldn't matter. So if you feel like putting fibrous mulch in, please do so. So that means we can keep every piece of equipment that we had on the original design.
Which is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. Every piece of equipment stays. It's.
And which to the residents, I know there was some, let's say, impatience or frustration by the fact that we didn't have some of that equipment down there, but it had to absolutely be removed due to safety concerns. We will not negotiate on that, so we appreciate the patience. Obviously having a park system that's funded through user fees, not through a parks levy, in order to keep, avoiding the need for a levy. A little time and patience is what it takes, and it's paid off. So, great job by you guys on the writing of that grant to bring those dollars into the
I wrote
township.
the really rough draft. Lisa wrote the one that was submitted, so thanks to Lisa on that.
I think we're gonna have some happy constituents that use
Yeah.
that park. And now be a beautiful playground.
Anything else in parks, or we're good?
I think we're good.
Nothing. Our law director will take us to communications, and then turn it over to Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. We have several communications, and tonight the first one is to the board from the Heritage Herb Society, and they write, thank you for all your efforts in making the realization and dedication of the Blue Star Memorial happen. We are proud to be part of a Veterans Memorial Park. All of Friday's activities were an outstanding example of your commitment to honoring veterans and excellent service to the people of Plain Township. Perfect is the word I would give the day. Enjoy these photos, and they sent photos also. So I think that's a huge compliment to the board, knowing where we started from and then wanting to have their own day, and then you guys convincing them really to do it in our day. I think they couldn't have been happier. And then the next one goes to Joe Icino and the road department employees. And the Heritage Herb Society thanks you for all your efforts in making the Blue Star Memorial Veterans Memorial Park a reality. It is beautiful. We appreciate the skill and workmanship you gave to this project, and it shows in a wonderful finished product to be admired and enjoyed for the years to come. Thank you for your service. And then the last one is to Rob. And again, the Heritage Herb Society thanks you for all your efforts in making the Blue Star Memorial Marker a reality. From the beginning, it was clear that you knew what needed to happen for these memorials to be ready for November 11, 2016, and your coordination made it all happen. The day was perfect in no small part to your attention to every detail. You have every reason to feel proud of a job well done. We appreciate all your work. Best wishes to you in the time ahead with Plain Township. And I think that speaks volumes, knowing
Very
kind of the
nice.
back and forth there, so.
Very nice.
And then I have a thank you to the road department to add on the agenda. And this is from Gary Mull, who's the president of the Wellington Hills Homeowners Association. And he states, "I would just like to commend the Township Highway Department for their prompt attention and service to an issue that I reported on behalf of the Wellington Hills Homeowners Association. On November 5th, I reported there were several areas on Deer Trail where the blacktop was separating into very large cracks, as much as 1.5 inches wide. In less than an hour, there was a crew member out inspecting, measuring, and marking the areas. And less than a week after that, the areas in question had been dug up and relayed with blacktop. I don't think anyone could ask for better service. As a side note, a friend was describing how long it has taken to get anything done on her street in Canton, and I just had to laugh. When I told her how things are handled in Plain Township, I think she was ready to put a for sale sign in her yard. And here's a copy, Joe, for you guys. Okay. So pretty powerful. And that's the end of communications.
Nice work, John.
Wow.
Okay, it takes us to the portion of the meeting, public speaks. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the Board of Trustees, we ask that you state your name and your address for the board. Anybody? Sir?
Paul Malone, 5355 Penwood Drive, Northeast. First, sorry for my tardiness, got stuck in traffic. Is there any possible way you can go over what went down with chickens?
No further actions being taken. This board previously sent that to the zoning commission. The zoning commission, by unanimous decision, rejected it. And the board's not going to incur any further expense to send it back to that same exact commission with no new information to justify it. So the zoning will remain in place as it relates to chickens.
I've read the meeting from last December. A lot of the information that was given, the person that went in front of the zoning board was not very well prepared. There was a lot of misinformation that was given about chickens. I just don't think it was really taken into consideration by the zoning. I don't think it was taken seriously by the zoning board member because of how poorly the person had did.
I mean, as we've alluded to before, I mean, the only other measure is you guys may feel free to apply, pay the fee to have it heard again, but the board's not going to incur on a second expense to the rest of the taxpayers. That hearing.
I mean, it's a $450 fee, correct? I've contacted North Canton Louisville about the ordinances, and they don't allow chickens. I've asked about complaints, because one of the complaints that the board had was that they think they're gonna bring up another issue for the zoning board to take care of with complaints. They said they had maybe 1 or 2 complaints per year in all of these cities. Plain Township being more of a rural area compared to
We're
the
very
city.
suburban, just to,
Well, where I live is very rural, so.
unfortunately, I know it's frustrating, but the board's not going to take any further action.
So
At
what
this
is my next step?
Your next step really is
Come back
to
next-
apply for, submit
If I
a,
come back next month and ask again?
this board's not going to take any further action. I mean, we've researched it, we expend the resources the first time. It'd sort of be like beat my head against the wall and hoping for a different result. And I hate to use, that's the easiest way. I mean, we'd be going back to that same exact zoning commission.
But they were all personal reasons, like the one guy didn't want a coop in his backyard. And that's not very professional, in my opinion.
No, but that's a very harsh fact and reality of a lot of our residents when we've received the calls.
How many calls have you received about it?
It's been over a year for me to sit here and I can throw an arbitrary number out, but I mean, without looking back through calls, I don't track that. I mean, I can tell you whether it's Saratoga Hills, over to Avondale, Crest, Bobolink. I'm not just talking one or two calls. I would tell you in excess of anywhere from 1.5 to 2 dozen calls. and that's significantly greater than the number of people that are pushing to ask to have chickens in. So, I mean, we have to take into account the entire
I understand.
township. So, I mean, unfortunately, at this point, there's no further action we'll take unless somebody opts to file for another hearing with the zoning commission, and at which point should they,
How long is the zoning boards, how long are they on the zoning board?
they're 5 year, are they 5 year?
5-year stints, and most of them have been 2 to 3, 4 stints.
Yes. So, I mean, unless there's a significant issue, most of those folks, if they're seeking to be reappointed, they do get reappointed. The vacancies typically come up if somebody, we've had individuals that have moved out of the township, out of state and so forth, like that. If there would be, say, I'm trying to think of what a hotbed example would be of why we would look to remove somebody, because Alan, your tenure, have you guys ever had?
I would just,
to remove
I mean,
somebody?
It doesn't seem like they were even willing to discuss it.
I can't speak to what the zoning commission,
It went for 2 sessions, so they were discussing it.
as I say, if it was one session.
They were 2 different sessions. There was one in February where the sun came in, and then the one in December, they brought it back again. And
I mean, Paul, unfortunately, unless you guys are willing to submit an application and go back and forth, there's no further action that will be taken on this.
okay,
So,
thank you, Rick. I mean, I come off rude sometimes, I'm sorry.
no, I don't think you've ever been rude at all the board. Unfortunately, we're dealing with what
A big,
what we
huge
got,
township,
yeah,
too.
so. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the Board of Trustees? If so, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Richard Codispoti. I'm at 1474 Whittier Street. I was also here to hear about the progress being made on chickens in Plain Township. So I understand if the zoning board is the same people that voted it down last time, it doesn't make much sense to bring the issue before the same people who voted unanimously. But you said that since no new information had been brought forward, that was used as justification to not pay the fee to bring it.
Well, I mean, the fact is one, the board's already incurred that expense. So I guess regardless of no new information, the board was asked before to front that expense, and we did, and based upon who presented as advocates for it, whether they were prepared and on point or there was misinformation, we don't control that. That's obviously on behalf of whoever's presenting. So the fact that we've already expended township resources with a zoning commission who's unanimously rejected. If it was something that was contentious and say it was a 3-2 or like a 3-2 split where it was close and something come into question, trust me, our zoning commission has had stuff like that, whether it be, say, McDonald's or some other issues. We've looked at it, but the fact that it's been unanimous, and then compound that with the fact that there's nobody, there's been no major changeover in that board. Those 2 factors, to me, I mean, I'd have a hard time.
I understand, and I would probably make the same decision were I in your shoes. Common sense just would lead me to that, I think. I'm unfamiliar with the process, with this whole process. Do we as the public have the ability to sit in on a zoning board meeting like we do here?
Oh, absolutely.
And make our claim, and make our argument to them without incurring the fee?
The hearing, I mean, at this point, given the hearing was already done, if you want to have it heard again, you would have to file the application, pay the permit fee and everything. Really, your opportunity was during the last hearing, at which what happens is essentially from the beginning to the end. Interested party comes in, they're looking for some type of zoning change or deviation. It goes through Tom's office. He pulls the entire package of information together, where then public notice is sent out through multiple forms of media, whether it's radio, paper, typically the Canton Repository, and then, you know, in this situation, because it would have been broadened across the entire township, it would have simply been those public forums, whereas when you're looking for, say, a zoning, say like a zoning variance or something for, you know, maybe a setback difference, typically the immediate property owners that adjoin the area that's immediately affected, they get letters that are sent from that office. So in this situation, given it's so broad, it's not like a letter would go out to each and every individual in the township. That's why it goes out through, you know, multiple media conduit, including the paper, the radio, our website, social media, and stuff like that.
Let me ask a quick question. When I talked with Tom and he gave me the application, it said we had to send out 9 certified letters. You still have to send out the 9 certified letters when you're just trying to get an ordinance passed? Or is it you just have to pay the
Speak to that, because I'm not.
As an individual trying to get that change,
Well, this was, you gave me that to get it on to the zoning board. And you said we had to have 9 certified letters to my surrounding
the
neighbors.
properties that surrounded his property particularly.
Oh, so considering if it was a one-off.
I think that if you had, if there was a group, maybe we could delay that, because we could go out to the general public for an overall issue pertaining to the township. So your comments were correct, we could do that.
So we wouldn't incur the certified letters, we just, the $450
The
application.
It
application.
goes through, I mean, buying space in the papers.
Hasn't this been in front of us twice? I mean, it's been in front of our commission before. I mean, I like your persistency, but they voted down. And it's been before, it's the second time, someone tried it again, it was voted down. I don't know what else to tell you, but it's been voted down.
Well, the whole thing behind, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
I'm sorry?
The squeaky wheel gets the grease. You know?
Yeah, well, I can tell you.
I don't say, no, with this trustee, you won't find that to be the case.
No.
My department heads will vouch on that.
That was the same, you know. But, I mean, so you were even under the assumption that if we would come up with a $450 application fee, that knowing the history of the zoning boards, they would just.
I guess my guidance based on a historical perspective is there's probably significantly low probability of it passing. I'm not saying it's impossible, but, you know, history is a good predictor of the future, typically, so.
So basically, we're just.
There's unfortunately nothing else at this point. Sir, do you have anything you're here to address the board with tonight, or?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Joe. Okay, we'll get to you later.
That's fine. Well,
Anything else in public speaks? That will conclude concerns of trustees. First thing I had was reminder, guys, December, I believe it's the 15th, we have over at Skyland Pines, the Stark County Township Association's winter/Christmas celebration sponsored by Dominion. East Ohio will have a representative from the Eric Ryan Corporation coming in to speak to all the other townships, given the phenomenal work Mr. Wolf did in uncovering it for here and playing. Outside of that, I wanted to go on record. I had a lengthy conversation about a half hour tonight on my way here to this meeting with one of the business owners, Tizanga's Jewelers, or Tizanga's Jewelers, and he had with him Victor Hayden and David DePietro, and they've got some major concerns about this whole realignment, you know, of Route 62. The fact that it's essentially going to wipe out their businesses, and the reality is, they're looking for, a voice from the township and airing concerns about, from a safety front, which they see with access being choked off, and we know both at the state and at the county level, access management's a huge thing. I did share with those gentlemen, I sat on the county committee as one of the township representatives, said that we had seen a significant number of plans. However, we got more questions than we do answers to say we've got an opinion on one way or another. Is hoping that we will have multiple individuals at the Tuesday, November 29th meeting, the public hearing. And, their biggest frustration, is they've been long-standing, businesses there in the township, and even though they've been told, hey, we can get you relocated, it's out of the township. None of them want to leave the township. They own their properties, they own their businesses, they're, pretty much free and clear, and then to have this come through, their concern too is outside of, whether it shifts north or south, access is going to be choked off. And the fact that the county does have the roundabout project going on down at Middle Branch and Harrisburg, how does that net effect of all those changes? Is it going to move us significantly greater from a safety condition, or are we just
from all my times of meetings with ODOT, it's gonna definitely change the scope of Route 62 from a safety aspect because the traffic lights will all be gone. The majority of the traffic lights occur heading eastbound around the curve to Roland Avenue where that traffic light is, and at Maple. There's plenty of traffic accidents in both directions at Maple. In Harrisburg, at 62, I've been one or two in the county for the last 15 years for deaths and accidents. The roundabout, these are two completely different projects. We have to make that. That's going to happen here within the next year and a half, probably. The Harrisburg roundabout, Route the 30th Street and the off-ramp there. From what it sounds like, this realignment of Route 62, either on the north side, the south side, there's 8 different variables that they gave us, and that's why we need to attend this meeting next Tuesday and look at everything. 2021 is the closest that I got to when that's actually going to happen because of funding and grants money that they will get for that project. So, it's a tough project. Scott and I have had a conversation a few times. Where do we link? North, south? Where do we want to access? Where do we want to head off?
And I know in talking with John this evening, just one of the public thoughts, all the business owners around there have met. And, this concerns this board has had is, well, if it shifts north, how much residential does it wipe out? Or if we move it more south, then it affects more businesses. I can tell you, I've got at least one call of somebody that owns a couple of those properties right along 62, and they couldn't be happier that, hey, they could possibly make the money, be out and moved on. However, the fact that we do have those good significant long-standing businesses, it's concerning. He asked I make sure that it was noted on the record because he feels, or all three of them, because I can hear Victor and David in the background.
They're on the north side of it, right?
Yeah.
The other correct.
Yeah. They're all concerned that, hey, we've asked these questions, we've proposed alternative ideas, and it's pretty much they're talking to a nodding head and have not got any response back. So I committed to them on behalf of the board. We would obviously be airing their concerns not only here, but I did, temper that with the fact that the state's going to do ultimately what they determine is in the best interest. We can only influence it as much as
I think we have a lot more influence than they want us to respond. They want to know what our board wants. I heard them say that many times.
Is there any way we could get bigger, the depictions that they have of all those different models? Is there any way we can get that?
I'm sure they're gonna have large ones there.
I would like to, just to
They
have some
usually do
time
it,
here to
they'll have the
absorb
size
that.
of, that board there, not the size that, we got.
Yeah.
I don't know if Tom can blow the ones I got up.
Should be able to. That
He
might
can
help.
blow some of them.
Yeah,
I'll
let's,
turn them over tomorrow.
let's go that route, if that helps. And then that'll give us an opportunity then for talking points as to, we could all take a look at them at our own leisure, but at some point in time, we're gonna rule out half of those right away.
We have other concerns too that I brought to their attention, and it comes from our fire team. They're gonna only have one or two ways to get to some of those properties. They're gonna have to go up and around. They're gonna,
Well, there's hydrants.
There's no hydrants on the
that are-
south
I
side.
know, and so, that
There's
that.
gonna be a wall down the middle,
You basically cut those hydrants' accessibility off to places that are strategic. And it makes no sense.
They are
Unless
aware of
they decide they're gonna put a whole bunch of extra infrastructure in
They're gonna have
to take care of that.
Because once they put the barrier wall up, those fire hydrants on the north, you're not even gonna be able to string a line, are you?
No, and I talked to when they had on 62, the ODOT meeting there, and she said that we need to put together some stuff, and voice our concern with fire hydrant issues, egress to those neighborhoods.
That's huge.
I was trying to do like a time study from our closest station, just with normal traffic, because it will impact our response time too, by cutting big time.
Well, yeah, because, you're gonna have to get used to a whole different direction you're gonna go depending on what block it's in.
And I have the railroad tracks, but then it cuts over my overpass, that I have to go over the tracks to get to some of those things. Logistically, there's a lot of things to think about for road traffic.
Thanks, guy.
All right. That was the only thing I had. Do either of you, did you have that? Thank you. Takes us to concerns of the fiscal officer, Mr. Wolf.
No concerns.
Takes us to approval of the minutes for November 9th, 2016, and I will so move.
So, second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes. We will have a need for executive session, but before we do so, we'd just like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully it's some good time with close family and friends. Thanks for everything that everybody's done so far to date from the township this year. That being said, be hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn the executive session at 7 p.m. from this regular meeting as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose and consideration of 1A, appointment of a public employer official, 1B, appointment of a public employer official, 1C, dismissal of a public employer official, 1D, discipline of a public employer official, E, promotion or demotion of a public employer official, 1F, compensation of a public employer official.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.